Alrighty, here we are, Timewalking Dungeon, Burning Crusade, Arcatraz. Fun dungeon back in the day. Used to remember having to take an hour or two just to get a heroic dungeon group together. Um, our hardest part with me and my pals was getting a tank, because our guild tank at the time was still leveling, or was never on. um, but yep, I remember having to actually not doing a LFG or group finder or anything like that for this, getting in here and taking an hour in trade chat to find you a good group. Took some time. Wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do. um, but I love that they came back out with these dungeons as time walking, because it's fun. um, as you saw there, that was the first boss we just took down. Zerkith the Unbound. That's the first boss of the Arcatraz. Now, granted, time walking way easier than Burning Crusade dungeons. I mean, it's basically the same. It's the same type of run, except back then you had to CC. You can't just run in an AOE pool like we're doing here. That didn't exist. You AOE pulled back in Burning Crusade, it's almost a guaranteed wipe. And if you didn't wipe, it was close. I mean, usually you had to be really well geared to come into heroics like that. Even in-game raiders, if they were in just a regular group for this, not a group of their raid team, like five-man raid team or whatever it may be. They couldn't just AOE pull stuff like this. You would just you would die. It is guaranteed. And I kind of miss that somewhat. I mean, I miss stuff being challenging. It was way more challenging. You had a better community of players, more skilled players than you do nowadays. And then sometimes I don't, because I've been playing WoW for, I don't know, 8 years, something like that, a while. And I've been around, I've seen a lot of stuff, seen a lot of challenging stuff and stuff that's not so challenging. I'm more of a person who's looking for something in the middle. I'm more casual now than I was, say, back in Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, where I was a hardcore player. I raided through the entirety of Wrath. Took me a while to get my gear up to even raid in Burning Crusade. The guild we were in we did Karazhan and Gruels and some stuff like that, and then I was in another guild by the name of Knights Templar. And I mean, we did I jumped into that, and I was kind of above, could barely keep my head above water. I was overwhelmed, and I was jumping in a little too deep because they were doing SSC and I hadn't even done Karazhan yet. So jumping right into SSC like that wasn't a great thing for me. I mean, they were in progression in SSC, and I was still learning my class, and I was still learning how to raid, because I started playing at the very beginning of Burning Crusade, right at the end of Vanilla. I had a free account during Vanilla. I only played the 7 days and didn't really have the time or money to play then, so about a few months later I re-upped and started playing Burning Crusade right before the first PvP season. It was like right there in the Glads. So it was fun, but I just remember doing these old heroic dungeons a lot. Trying to get this blue gear, and it was just such a big deal. I mean, because to get an epic back then, it was few and far between. It wasn't nowhere near as easy as it is now. I mean, I think I ended up doing a crafted set just to get myself into raids back then, and I think it was the frozen Shadow Weave gear. And it took me 3 or 4 weeks just to farm up all the mats to be able to get that set. So it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do, but I did it, and it got me further into Burning Crusade. But I didn't get too much more out of Burning Crusade than some PvP gear and some of the 5-man dungeons. I think rating wise, the furthest we made it was Mactherodon and Gruul's Lair in our own guild. Um, Me, I got to test the waters a little bit in SSC and Tempest Keep and a little bit of Hyjal, not a whole lot. Didn't really get to do Black Temple back in the day. That wasn't something that I really walked into until uh, so Wrath or Kata when we went in like a 4 or 5 man group to do it. I got that the other day. Um, so I mean, it's just one of those things. And that was the second boss there we killed. Wrath Scryer, like Socrates looks like it, and Delia, the Doomsayer. Um, it's like the second and third boss. Really, I just count them as like a combined second boss. Now the lore behind the Arcatraz is it's a prison, kind of like Alcatraz. It's a blood elf prison, um, and the Tempest Keep area here. This is all part of the spaceship that the Draenei came to Draenor on when they were referred to as from shoot, the Burning Legion planet. The Sargeras took over. Anyways, Iridar, I think they were called. Um, as you can tell, just by looking at Archimonde and Kil'jaeden and a lot of the demons like Prince Malchezaar and stuff, they're all Draenei looking, is because they are. They're Eridar though. Oh, the Consortium. Oh, I love the Ethereals. I wish they would bring them in and make them into a playable race. That would be so epic right there. I love the Consortium. I love the Ethereals implemented into the Burning Crusade. Right here, Ethereum prison Key. Quick way to build your rep with the Consortium. I'm exalted with them yet, sorry, so I'm just going to pass on that. Um, but there was 3 dungeons. They were up this way. There was the Arcatraz, the Mechanar, and Botanica or something like that. Bot. I just remember it as Bot. Botanica, that's it. Which is more like an herbalism heavy friendly place. I remember if you're an herbalist, you wanted to go to Botanica and do that dungeon. This one was the heroic that introduced Millhouse Manastorm. He'll be here at the final boss when we get to him. This is where his character was introduced into World of Warcraft, which was I had a lot of mage friends back in BC, and they loved this raid because of Millhouse Manastorm. Everybody was like, "Oh, Millhouse, yes," "Oh, I'm a mage, I love him, love Millhouse," that kind of stuff. Which he is funny. Is a funny character to add in. So I mean, I'm a big BC person. I loved the Burning Crusade. That was probably my favorite expansion. I loved Wrath. I loved Wrath and the raids and stuff, but things started to get easier in Wrath. The raids started getting easier. It was easier to get into a raiding guild, to get on a raid team. Back in Burning Crusade, it was a lot more difficult, especially if you were a new player. New players nowadays can jump right into LFR. It doesn't even matter. Wrath of the Lich King, everybody was doing in-game raiding. When I was doing in Burning Crusade on my server Zul'jin, there was 2 alliance guilds, because I was playing alliance at the time. There were top guilds, in Black Temple, and one was number 1 was Final Union, and the other was Blood Red Moon. Now, Final Union kind of died off in Wrath, but Blood Red Moon stuck around and was still going strong in Wrath of the Lich King. So, like I said, this is one of my favorite set of heroics. I love all the heroics from Burning Crusade. I remember having to do all the attunement for Karazhan. I don't remember all the dungeons I had to go to. I think I do remember going into Steam Vaults and Shadow Labyrinth. Shadow Labs. Oh, Shadow Labs was such a long run. If you got into a heroic for Shadow Labs, you better have 2 to 3 hours set aside for that run, because that was a long heroic dungeon. At the end, you had Murmur, which was a fun fight. Really had to know mechanics like these. You know, a lot of heroics nowadays, and going from Wrath on up into Cataclysm and MOP, and now, I mean, you still have to, you had to operate by mechanics, but it's not like the whole group would wipe if you screwed up the mechanics. This BC, if you didn't properly adhere to mechanics, no matter how geared you were, you would die, and your group could wipe. I mean, just loved Burning Crusade. Here we are. Here's our buddy, Millhouse Mana Storm. Let's wave at him.
A lowly gnome? I will do better, oh great one.
Such a funny lore character Millhouse is. It's perfect character for a gnome mage, right? I mean, it's just he fits the personality so well. Gonna light you up, sweet cheeks. It's a popular line that he says. Of course, they brought him back in Kata, and he was on the opposite side of you in that one. So, here we go. He's about to pull out the final boss here of the raid, the dungeon, in just a second. As you see, we've breezed through this dungeon pretty quick. So, and we haven't been in here for maybe 20 minutes, maybe at the most, if that. These, like I said, they're so easier now in time walking, but back in the day, oh man, you'd probably be in here for over an hour. Such a long run. Tempest Keep was the raid for this area in Netherstorm, and it's got the final boss is Prince Kalthos Sunstrider, a mage in his own self. That was the fight you get Ashes of Alar off of. It was a tough one to solo back in Wrath and everything. It got easier in MOP, a lot easier to solo that fight. You just learned a few little small mechanics to keep yourself from getting stunned or mind controlled. I remember coming in and doing it with friends, and one of us would get mind controlled, and it always just happened to be me at MOP. And I played a warlock, and warlocks were super OP in Mists of Pandaria. So I'd go in there, and next thing you know, boom, I'm one-shotting my friends with my Chaos Bolts. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, that's just how it worked. So he kind of breaks himself off. He's defeated, even though his guys are still up here. Here he is. Yep, and that is Arcatraz. Time walking heroic Arcatraz. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and remember, if you like my videos, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'm going to try to put more videos up. I appreciate everybody watching, and everybody have a good night. Thanks.